Good morning, Gen Rinpoche, Tashi Lele, and good morning, Katrina. Thank you for translating for us this morning. And welcome to everyone online. Just a brief reminder, we'd like to show our appreciation to Geshe Tabke and Katrina with an offering on the Day of Miracles, which is the 7th. So if you'd like to join that offering, please look in the chat box for more information. And we'll begin this morning with some preliminary prayers. To the teacher endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one that's gone, the foe destroyer, the completely and fully awakened one, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, one gone to bliss, knower of the world's supreme guide to being to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you, the Buddha endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you are born on this earth, you pay 7 strides and said, I'm supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I bow, with pure bodies formed supremely fine, wisdom motion like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, supreme guide, to you I bow. With a supreme sign, space like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I bow. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not, incomparable wise one, to you I bow. Great compassionate protector, all-knowing teacher, field of merit and good qualities, vast as an ocean, to the Tathagata I bow. Through purity, freeing from attachment, through virtue, freeing from the lower realms. Unique, supreme, ultimate reality, to the Dharma that is peace I bow. Having freed themselves, showing the path to freedom too, well established in the trainings. The holy field endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha I bow. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind completely, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop, a dew, a bubble. A dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through this merit may sentient beings attain the state of all-seeing, subdue the 4 faults, and be delivered from the ocean of cyclic existence perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, for land, sun, and moon, imagined as a Buddha land to you, may all beings enjoy this pure land. Venerable holy gurus, in the space of your truth body, from billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niyataya.
Amen.
I take refuge, awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings.
Oh, yeah. Talk I like sometimes. What it? Then sit down, you can be soon later. Meadow, Sarah. Meadow, then be children coconuts. Chir meadow, barwa, you masha. Tambu bezu sitting, you shall not remember. Meadow, then be children coconut, then buches. Give each all draw, caught. Then boo you but this order. Meadow, then be children coconuts, Kocha Quebasa. Oh, Benagazu. Mada Dongane Kocha Sanji Misuba, Shandan Neve Misuba, Kocha Traps the Koya Orwa, oh, Tinashes order. Medo Tembe Chundru coconuts, Chundru de la Kocha Chundus, Udo, Kocha Chundus, Kawachu Chundu, Zero, Kocha Chundus Tambudia, oh, Kale country Kakuna, Kabi Samsa, Lamla Bezu country Shikunet and the Chigi Samsako. Simshu Tambune Kibatel Kocha Quebasura. Payero Bukase Kalekapuna, Betu Kadeshikuna, Chigin Samsung, Droekone Tachibatel Sora. Mendo Tembe Chundru Coconas, Kocha Quenas, Gora. Mendo Tembe Chundru Coconas. Londo Yonde, Yangunda, Longo Yonde, Nyamba, the Shebala Soba in Nedra, Dogway Yonde, Shebet, Susu Samlutani, Kuleki, Chituyan, and the Samlutan in Nedra. Lunda Dogway Yondes. Londo Yonde, Yangunda Shepes. Dawa Yango de Kuniri near Madavisia Pendurwa. Londo Yonde, Yangunda Darpes. Chulam Tamjeton and Dembarjus. Kiola and Dubetsunduti, Koshako and Tachi and Ko Tawasi. Chundri Mab Machaga Chayuna, and Kansan Kasim better don't you go now, no go in the young dad. Cholam Tamje Shishin do what use. So Cholam Tamje pay Abuchagora. Kaduina Susa, Lunga use some you connect catch a shade in and Legion Nam you in and the Simki Samlatan you in and to do coach to live young Goda. The temperature do coconut londo in the young window. Cholam Tamje turned on temperatures. Kanzam lege tanam nonsidus. Susekare samgiyuna, kevechawa kare samgiyuna, tepe takiba yungure sora. Kang zamse kang zamba, chawa zamba sora, chawango zuba. Kanzam lege tanu lege kare chine ote takiora yungure sora, tadapa truptugure sora. Kanzam lege tanu yonsidus. Mito tembe chindu koko na londo yunde nyamundada, cholanto jitan damaja. Kanzam lege tanu yonsidus. Tedarishene kese pawo namse, janju samba namjisigora. Nami tranjo, chundu kundu tense, no. Nambari yawa de pa chomne ne chundu de, tu kundu tengrese. Nami tranjo chundu kundu te. Nani, neju ngege nyamle te tanze, sta chetani shimbo koranga nyamle te tanze mies. Tande kyojan te shinkyang chalose, tarwan deba. Neson tu tungele tawan deba. Koya dungele tarwan deba. Oh, tesu sangmage. Ene tina shi nyamle chakure songdoa. Nanjo ngege nyamle te tachi tando kejan te shinkyang chalose. Yeah.
So here, as is taught by our noble teacher, J. Lama Tsongkhapa, he says in a verse that when you don the armor of dauntless diligence, so when you don the armor of dauntless diligence, it's this kind of unwavering, like stable sort of diligence or joyous effort, this kind of joy in virtue, that sort of attitude. We should put on that kind of attitude like armor. So we wear armor.
Hello, Katrina, we cannot hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you, Katrina.
Okay. So I don't know what I should do. I'm not.
go the numbers.
Gala
Kwanzaa,
Rinpoche, can you hear us?
Much love that.
Gala Rinpoche? So we'll write to him in the Zoom chat box.
okay.
And turn on their speakers.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just keep going. I feel bad he can't hear me. But so this sort of attitude.
Okay, now we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
So this sort of attitude of diligence or joyous effort, and when we put this on, this kind of unwavering, that's not going to turn around, it's sort of like donning armor, putting on armor, which we do in the context of like a battle in order that we not be harmed by the enemy. So of the different types of joyous effort or diligence, there is that of gathering virtues and so forth, but this armor-like diligence is the sort of attitude that I'm going to make effort at virtue. And this is what you sort of start with. You put on this kind of armor, you put on this attitude of thinking that however long it may take, however much effort may be necessary in order to accomplish this virtue, I'm going to undertake it. And so when one has that kind of dauntless diligence, knowledge or the qualities of scripture and realization increases like the waxing moon. So the kind of qualities, the things that we understand in terms of scripture, as well as our own realizations based upon having contemplated and thought about those scriptures, will increase in the way that a waxing moon, with every day it's growing larger and larger. And not only that, your conduct comes to be imbued with noble purpose. Everything that you do in terms of your three doors, the body, speech, and mind, comes to be meaningful in accord with the Dharma, the way that you think, the way that you speak, the way that you act toward others. And whatever initiative you undertake succeeds. So whatever sort of virtue, whatever positive actions one starts will be accomplished as you wish when you have this kind of attitude of diligence or joyous effort. So knowing this, then he continues, bodhisattvas expend great waves of effort, which helps to dispel all forms of laziness. I, a yogi, practiced in this manner. You who aspire to liberation should do likewise. So Je Lama Tsongkhapa is encouraging us, that those of us who are striving for liberation, who are striving either to be free from the lower realms or who want to attain freedom from samsara, want to attain the state of Buddhahood, we too should sort of like don this armor, put on this armor of diligence, of joyous effort that allows us to increase our qualities, accomplish our purposes, and dispels laziness. So those of us who want to achieve that should likewise have joyous effort.
Oh yeah, you go. Chundri the vacation was sungudwa. Oh, the Nikasher. Chundri ngo the Chungang Kela Troa Shero. Kay Chava condition, telling you when I go caution Troshitone. Oh, gave us some wings, a cabutone, you was good. Kalikana of Shida, remember cabutone, Trobetone, Chunga Kela Troas. Tiakasura. Aranzu Chawakare, Kive Chawakande Shabina, Tambuyan Judine, Troya Conejugura. And then Chawang Shin Jubeka, Sem Cabo Trobetone. There was some Buddha Yabu Samsung. And then Tamasha do in a Troya Coneshaka. Kabukuna, or that rich in Chesha Yakum Jagina, some Tangina, Yabuchon so some Kabutone Shakura. The members of Tambuna Kalekana resident. In Chemade Kalekabe condition and Chemanico telling Jungi twice the Kiomar. They so good something get it dinner. Comambu captured some tegura. And should I call it as a Troyak on a Martian college and Chema? You had some dega, you do some tent on this and so Kalikana Shavioris. Oh, Taya Kachitegu or something. Troyak on a Juba in the cotetu, Taya gave us some wings. Kabukone ate to Yora. Nesha do them Kabukana or Tirimpe Yapuchon Sonsam. Kivecha or Yapuchon to Sule was out to Sonsan. Kabuton Shavin any Mahombanako, Chawadil Jubola Troyogora. Timania, Kalakabe, and the Shavina, any corporucilia, Tangshangi Chagrudo. Yeah.
So here, Jilama Tsongkhapa is emphasizing how important it is to have joyous effort, and the nature, the essence of joyous effort or diligence. The reason I translate it as joyous effort is because it's referring to having joy, like liking in engaging in virtuous activities. So here, even if something is difficult, even if it causes us some kind of trouble, to be able to put that aside and feel a kind of joy and happiness at the positive actions, at the virtuous actions that we are doing, this is something that is very important. So we need to start our engagement with joy, feeling that it is something we want to do when we engage in a virtue. And so too, when we are carrying that out, we should carry that kind of joyfulness, that happiness with us. And at the end, rejoice, thinking, oh, that was so wonderful what I was able to do. If from the start we have this kind of dread or we don't really have a joy in doing it, it's extremely difficult to get ourselves through whatever activity it is. And so joyous effort is really important at all of the various stages. Like, for example, if we are doing a retreat and we sort of are pushing through with difficulty and we don't really enjoy it, or we sort of stop at a point where we don't feel very happy, then it's going to be really difficult to do that again. We won't want to engage with that again if we're, say, doing a lot of meditation and it's too much, because we don't feel joy. We just feel that sort of unhappiness at that. So it's very important too, when we engage in virtuous activities, have that feeling of joy. Like, say, when doing a retreat, recognize the great kind of fortunate opportunity that we have and think, oh, this went well, and hold on to that kind of joyous effort and that attitude. Because if we engage in virtuous activities and sort of stop when we don't feel happy or when we feel overwhelmed or when we just want to take a break, it's very unlikely that we'll take those up again. Whereas if we feel joy at those actions that we have done, we are more likely to engage in them again.
Yeah, that's in the story, that's in the near it. Give a chedu his induce, give a cadena, tether telling you balco, draw you get ra. Go chase into ra. Give a chedu his induce era. Nissim jet and shake it to them. Tatambuco, Cocha Quincy, induce. Chow Carlin Juguna di touch of a yabuchi in Samsa, so Semke, but temperature corridor, touch calendar car you share it in the membership temperature, coaches and Russia. And this Simjet and Jiggy students. Kewachu do his Kewakari in a Trugi in Samsa, Kewate that you can't come in a bay, Kewachawach in the Kashi Trust on the Trugi in Samsa. This Simjet and Chialas what in the car in a pendo to show upon it. Pendo took in some such, or the case or it was. Coaching to share. Coaching to the Yabu United, subject to change it. Kiwama Butuvelis of Tizul Kaleka Marwa. Kalekana Megash, torn out on the Jupiter Guara. Oh, yeah, digital.
So here again, this kind of joyous effort, we could say it's of like three different kinds. Again, the wish to engage in virtuous activity is the nature of joyous effort. And there is the kind of armor-like joyous effort, which again is a stable kind of unwavering sort of attitude that one will engage no matter how difficult it might be in whatever virtuous activities, not just sort of willing to cast that aside at the slightest bit of difficulty. And then there is the kind of joyous effort of the wish to engage in all various virtuous activities, as well as as the wish to engage to benefit others. So when you have this kind of armor-like joyous effort, where from the beginning you think, I'm going to do as much virtue as I can, this is what allows us to then engage in all virtuous actions. And so too, the sort of joyous effort that says, I'm going to accomplish the benefit of others. When we do so with a joyful sort of attitude, this is what allows us to continue that.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Give each other some time just to do which is to over. Umajuba goes a love and daughter was some good. And then my little change, Sunam Lotus on in Yikis. Sunam gets all some boo. Go under which a champagne change you similar sober. Shanlet saw upon Bechawa some condition in Adara. Sunam gets saucera. Ishiki saucer is a call. Midawada, Dungawada, Tonga, Tamils of a Shiraki chatter. 시럽게 쉐용게 차 연대시오로 될이야 이시기 소시 상부 제배 차지로 소소 상부시 잠바자와 셴뱅 서버 고메라 서버 어쩌라 선남지 소시오라 선남지 소데 사수나 네조 수구 산계기 수구 럽지기 줄르르와라 소기고 천상부 선비선 배제상부 개줄에 서버 구수지와도 어딘 럽지기 교소르와라 이시기 소셔야 돼 어느 가서래 시럽이 참니다 바다 동해하다 동하다 땅별에서 거네 미시베 몽바세네 시자 내주 탐제 kimbe 아니 산제 고마토베 줄로 치고 이시치고 탐제 kimbe 미시베 몽바세네 랑돌기 내 탐제 시베 구tin 줍지 줄로 가라 늘 이시죠 연대말로 준비시는 수남 로드선이 니기 교세 송번아 신시고 손남다 시기 소 간대지네 대줄이야 소 규대 아니 준비되고 요라 지단 기회 저 정말 담절해 준비 그녀라네 아니 두바시고 요라 또 뒤나네 암메세 고소 진바 주든 세바셔와 준비시 아니 삼대 시럽 삼대다 시럽이 삼대 신에 샘세집에 신에 두바다 아니 라동 동반이 똑배 라동라 소바텐데 두바야 라바르드네 준주야부 좀 고여도 대단히 이게 갈수래 먼저 진배 갈수 때봐 그래서 미직 배침바 최지 침바스 상승기 침바스 미직 배침바 최지 침바세요 어디는 미직 배침바셔야 돼 심지어는 소화방에다 심지어에 강의를 준비 사주면은 그 중하다 나살아서 봐 지구연도 대조세에 로봇이야 되시기도 미직 배신받아 저니까래 미직 배신받아 대조리야 소 미직 배신받아 개화 취도 말을 심벌이야로 상세지 심바시 미직 배신받아 개화 취도지 심바세라 주도 주르셈에라 단디기래 저기 가서래 심바들이야 숨용게 봐 상생기 심바체 상생기 심바체 아니 최지 심바체 미직 배심바 와라 최지 심바다 미직 배심바니 되려야 아니 데 준비돼 뺏게 심바차 와라 지단 강가를 개시와래 티나네 되니 가서래 신에다 라동다 아니 민지배 심바다 와 그래서 좀 최지 심바세야 되고 시알에 최셔야 당시 된데서요라 최지 심바 민지배 심바서 시행직 강의를 교비에다 들을수요라 어떤데 값을 준비돼 좋아하게 개심부레스 백업을 돈내줘야 되니 신에 라동을 써봐 대주 주발에 개심부레스 오다야 저도
So here, generally, joyous effort or diligence is extremely important. As Chandrakirti has said in his entry to the middle way, all virtues, all positive activities follow after joyous effort. And joyous effort is the cause for the accomplishment of the two accumulations, the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom or intelligence, he uses the word. So here, when it comes to all kind of positive activities that we engage in, they really follow after our desire to do virtue, our joyous effort, our joy in that virtue. And so here, this is what acts as the kind of cause for our engaging in all of those activities of the accumulation of merit. So those kinds of things like kind acts, having love and compassion and engaging in generosity and so forth, all of those causes that we call the accumulation of merit that act as the cause of the form body of a Buddha with all of the 32 major marks and 80 minor signs and so forth, all of those kinds of activities that are the cause of that accumulation of merit follow from having joyous effort. And so too, when it comes to the accumulation of wisdom, those kinds of qualities of developing our own intelligence and wisdom, things like meditating on impermanence and suffering and selflessness and so forth, knowing all of the various points of the way that things are, the various points of what is to be adopted and what is to be abandoned, abandoned. All of this follows from joyous effort. It's necessary to have that in order to create the kind of accumulations of merit that lead to this state of Buddhahood. Particularly, again, the accumulation of merit leading to the form body of a Buddha, and the accumulation of wisdom leading to the wisdom dharmakaya, that sort of nature, one could say the truth body of a Buddha. And so here, when it comes to all of our virtuous activities, generosity and ethics and patience and so forth, these follow from joyous effort, from having a desire or a joy to engage in those activities. But in particular, like serenity, our single-pointed kind of concentration, the development of meditative concentration depends upon our having this kind of joyous effort. And so too, when it comes to wisdom, developing our own understanding based upon engaging with the various texts. As well, when it comes to other kinds of like generosity, for example, the generosity, there are different types of generosity, like material generosity, or the generosity of protecting others from fear or from harm, and the generosity of giving the Dharma. In particular, it's so important to have this kind of joyous effort, especially for when we are explaining the Dharma to others, or when we are trying to protect others from some kind of harm. So here, all of our positive actions really depend upon this joyous effort, which is, again, having a joy, having a desire to engage in virtues.
Oh yeah, 다 준비 거 미리 줘대로. 띵하라도 지단 기록 bellelo스라 렐로스. 기록 미 길레니부터 되어와 다시 내가 간거야. 잼메통게 다시 배 니르고 아니 때 간주마지 때 되게 되어라. 저들 기록 bellelo스도. 아니 자왕의 생기를 자와 답자 된데 거로. 펜도 메게도 다시 자와된데 고코되네 자왕해봐 로 주담 between 자왕해 between들이야 고코된 게 되려야 자왕의 생기를 쓰기도 근데 다 도는데 당일에 예벨을 쓰더라 네 된데 람레 롬네 기부충이 람라로네 미게와 샹라 체에 능아 예수가 미게와 상마파 능아 예수 지권에 샹라 템버트부터 인정그 말에 삼사 내 영토고 말에 미망분 저와시오를 교진시오를 뭐거든 참마체오를 또 밀리차도 제오를 삼는 진짜 삼다니 당일에 예벨을 쓰거라 어때내시 기분 들으시는 약보들에 심지어리 착담해봐 상마라 딱초다 현쇼스 매버체 상마라 대완들레 동해미들 미치소 찍바인 버티데 딱그거든 약보다 시다르데 내 연구 말에 삼사로 아니 기부천배이나 답배 현시봐 현대 것이 현지된 주버들 랑기던 것이 송제 전주선배 기부천배 라면에 된대요라 대중에 누구 말에 삼사 뒤텐디오 말씀으로 당일은 예벨로스 소소소소 저기 말에 삼네 내 된데 가와 용구를 용 말에 삼자 어떤데 삼기 말씀 거라 왠지 산제 좀 된데 전주선배 단단한서 겹수치에서 때도 상마 담봉 알아서 찍봐 알아서래 누가 근데 내가 뭐 붙여요라. 이내 건조 깔래 겸네 란다 찍었던 간주나 신신에 깔래 겸네 야르야야 선이야 상케버래. 내가 란라 상게 유르요래. 깔래 마지막도 깔래 겸네 겹투에 지어라. 정신지고 공주르진에 정신지 공주 잡고 공주 매버서에 매버진데게 레요 말아. 야 사르다네 땅에 요래삼. 차도 총르다네 매버쳐야 요래삼. 아주 정말 산계기 르이저라 남바이나 점내 터도 산계도 처음에 보여래 나라저 산계야 요시거라 딜람과도 갱아저 타르투고 간사 연대 타르투고 상부 타르심바 신의 타르심바도 요시거라 상간줄에 산계기 르이어래삼 뭐니 산계도 소리에 셈데 자침 셈비랑 신외서와 주만남니 루브로와 아세 셈비랑 신의 장마 땅마치어라 지마 공동아지 차도라 소바도 루불루부 그도 꼼배왕의 용거 띵가라서 용주샤로 고바가게 내고 야르야르 타르 야르도 어디인데 가시라 심비랑시 요새 주만은 루버 송번에 나라줄에 사게 저기요래 탑시 제고를 삼 강가 단단 남사 용거 말때 마음반에 지지 빠체 담부 능아 예수 권에 쳐봐 챤라 템버트 원도 라미 고바 터바체 조심하러 신들라랑다 셰기바 디체라네 닥쳐도 셴죠 차당방네 타르바 좋아 너무 매나니 너무 왕기 사벨레요 말티네 타르바 토고야도 기치치고 벌레 타르게요래 어디지 에 텔레라와네 스타바 셴지베 찬주고 삼라서고 대소가 될거 말하준 중그래 사마옹바나 처음부터 남산도 주고 말아 제야게를 봐 심쇼케고요래 심게 삼을 같이부터 하고요라 같이 뭐다 용말에 삼라네 매화돼 되거라 심쇼케니 된다 단도 두고 말도 마음부터 제고래 지금이야 삼사 삼을 같이부터 하고 그래서부터 되는데 야 되질람나 다 되거라
So the sort of opposite of joyous effort, of diligence, is laziness. And there are various different kinds of laziness. We can sort of have a laziness of procrastination, where we just kind of put off engaging in Dharma, like, maybe I'll do that later, or I'm going to do this right now. I'll get to that sometime in the future. Or there can be the kind of laziness where we are attached to negative activities, deeds that are discordant with the Dharma. We engage in various things that are negative activities, and out of our attachment to them, we don't have joy in virtue. And maybe the worst kind of laziness is the laziness of self-deprecation, where we see maybe the path that other Buddhas have traveled and so forth, and we think like, oh well, others might be able to do that, but I don't know if I could actually achieve that. Like, others have possibly been able to remove their afflictions or develop these realizations, but I just don't think that's something that I could do. And so in that way, although we may think that it is possible to become a Buddha, we sort of due to our own self-deprecation, we don't engage in these things. Like, well, maybe it's possible to get rid of attachment and hatred and so forth and attain that sort of liberation, but I don't know if I could do that. And so because of that, we are sort of our own obstacle to engaging with the Dharma. So when we think about this, though, the objects that we go to refuge, those objects, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they were just like us previously. They began just like us, maybe even worse than us. And all of us, we have this Buddha nature. We have the capacity to become fully enlightened. There are methods, say if we are a very angry person, we can reduce and finally eliminate our anger. Or if we are jealous or prideful or whatever it may be, we have the ability to get rid of those kinds of adventitious stains. Because as it has been said, the nature of mind is clear light. The kind of stains that obstruct it are merely adventitious. They aren't of the nature of that mind. And there have been countless Buddhas in the past. We will become Buddhas if we too put in a sort of effort and traverse that path that has been traversed by countless others. And it is, again, based upon recognizing that our clear light nature of mind is such that these stains are not in the nature of our mind. We all have this Buddha nature. We have the ability, if we make an effort, to become fully enlightened fully enlightened through the process of developing these paths. And so here we should recognize that no, this isn't something that will happen immediately, but if we are to make effort, we can gain a good rebirth in the future such that we are able to continue to practice the Dharma. And even going beyond that, we have the capacity to get rid of the various afflictions like attachment and hatred and so forth, such that we can gain a liberation from this cycle of samsara. And even more than that, we can generate the kind of attitude of bodhicitta, of wishing to benefit all sentient beings if we make the effort. We have this potential, the capacity to develop all of these things. So here we need to generate a sort of mental fortitude. Even if we're not going to achieve all of this right now, we should have this kind of resolve that we are going to continue through multiple lifetimes to strive after this, and recognize that we have the potential, we have the capacity, because we all have this clear light nature of mind. We all have Buddha nature.
Oh yeah, 다든다고 진주체네 가와신베코네 준바친베코네로 아니 니린니린 베지나 룽아 예숨지코네 셴라 차와 빵 룽아 예숨코네 진주제 셴라 펜바투비인삼 기부충wil람이바 진주제 룽아 예숨코네 셴라 차와 빵바다 셴라 진주제 펜바투비인삼 단단에 니리니리나 고추체 림베림베드니 니마치기나 룽아 예숨 이코네 샹라 차와 치게 매바 샹라 펜베 차와 마도 샹라 네와 치게 마치바 틴데진 교라 차기 삼 네바든 교라 차기 삼 고차코 디난 베수체 디체나니 림베림베 코야라 없이 바루칠 니만 예제 삼르타의 성면을 샹라 차와다 차도단 렌스 치메게 틴데 용시그라 틴데 자고요 삼 Tene te cheso dakcho ta shencho se gangsha le riksu ma chi bache changma chagdang me bache changma me changma chigyu simje changma chigyu dongru yanje changma dewan dole dongge me do changma chagdang niring ki chagdang me bache changma le simnyong ba tene chagdang me be chagdang se ba chagdang nyur tangje baru je chagdang zawane mengenge yene gi분 jenge lam tomne tarwa toba shaku yosam. Tene tesa mayi ba, takbe shenche ba, sosole shenke chewa, takbe shenche be chanju bisam. Kene ne semche tamche ke tuan chuktum ke tabda shiro niga tarshimbe sanje ye koban toba chagin se. Tab sangbu chatan shiro bi chaniga tarshimbe kansa chen yuwa chagin sam. Te che tuan tenren gyurchi ke tab tembe sanje sumbe chen yengin samza.
So, joyous effort is something that is really indispensable. If we have this, we are able to progress. If we can sort of, in our day-to-day life, give rise to this joyous effort of like donning armor, thinking, at least at the first, that we are going to abandon harming all other sentient beings and benefit them as much as we are able to. And we can one day, if we make an effort at that, get to the point where we have abandoned harming others completely, and all of our activities are to benefit them. But even going beyond that, we recognize that we want to eliminate these kinds of afflictive emotions. And so getting rid of things like malice and jealousy, getting rid of our attachment and our hatred or our attachment and aversion, this is something that we want to strive to do, to not see others, some as close and some as distant, but rather have a kind of equanimity, see all others as equally sentient beings, and therefore make a kind of effort until we are able to attain liberation from these various afflictions. But even more than that, we want to develop this sort of attitude of bodhicitta, the kind of attitude that holds others as more important than ourselves, that strives to gain a state of Buddhahood, wherein we have, due to perfecting perfecting method and wisdom, we are able to fully benefit other sentient beings, perfectly work for their welfare. So with that kind of attitude, we should set our motivation for listening to the teachings, thinking in this long-term way that we want to strive for that goal, and for that purpose, we are listening to the Dharma.
Oh yeah, my lesson. Daily because someday young Jiden go babose. Tatandanga Jiden go babo. Jidengi Nelu Lonju Sama Rava Jidengi Kam Dramendra, Simjan Dramendra, Titu Dramendra, Titu Sama Tamje, Gobabo, Soabo Sora, Tene Gobabo, Tende Gengi Kasa, Tarshibe, Gibu Seta, Javani, Bahan Sera, Jomden Sero, Tende Yore Se, Tatikol Segora, Jidengo Babu, Tandatal Rosar, Jidengo Babu, the Tagba in Sigora. Tende chiyos te takwa yins, ta nangba chan te takwa yina, ane ko Koran nipa rukari ne te yoyo bares. Te yina ko chane nipa te yoyo yina drebu takto kege ba yin kure sigora. Nipa liya pel drip chiya ke yo mare sigora. Cheba po te takwa yin bacha yin, te liya jiten dramenda sama soya ke kyujing nipa yo soba yo na. Ane tu chik do te sama yoyo kure si, tu takto yoyo ba yin kure si. Nga chamje roa. Dadi ko mare se til lengis ru chaura. Jiden goba bo la drebu tamje kebe neba maluba pindi meba ta du ye ya so neba maluba to yo re es kora katu ina jiden goba padala. Tu tak du ye bare tak bare te yo ge yo mare. Ina ya drebu tamje tu chi do Give yo mares, Tata then Jebutam jet to give what a tagbayena. Never yos soba tartuba yever, and then Jebuki give a gures serva, or Tendeko mares. Never Kangatan de Yonaya, and the Korangi or Tako, Kikudu, Tandikudu, Dikugus and Sol Madana. Never yos soba in a kig mares and answer. Or Tamje do, Tuchido, give a kyoba maese, Kares Kangashina, Kusen Karesana. Rangin debe wangin debu kibese yino yamnase te korangin deba yona ni tati de kugi samna kengure te rendore deba yonzo yone ko te cheba bog samlo tan ja de kugi tan de kugi te kugu medo sam o tende samlo madana yong mare sena se yorto samna pacho de len jabe so de shegora samju su shegora tene kase Kangan debe wangin debu kewe, yino nyamnasa nubade yonzo yeverite, Kuran deba mani yung marese, debe wangi kewurese, Kuran kongba shenani yung reser. Tele yan didar toade so, tene toba didar doa sige wara. Debu ngubu namne, rangi kechi ki kyujin ki neba yonso, soba yemele tene jukba dan doba. Debu sayade, Kuran kechi ki nyelen dan lenji chegin ki, Niba yonsu tsuosu na ne ko jengu resi wara. Nyene da lenchi chigin niba yonsu tsuo me na ne kegi ma resi wara. Tima do niba yonsu, kiwe niba yonsu tsuosu na niba jengu re. Tili ya kena samsana, ma kena samsana, tili samlu tanya de tili rali ma resi wara. Debu ngubu namne rangi keshi ki kyujin ki niba yonsu tsuo pa yueme la te ne jukba sudi kiwa si wara. Dogba sudi jigdwa mebe te si wara. Jukba dan dogba yin jese. Kuyu ngobo la tene jukba dan dogba kala yin se. Yin jese. Kuyu deba de. Kyu de len deba yueme ki wangi ma re se. Kyu de len deba yonsu zosu na ni ken ugu re se. Kyu de len deba yueme le tegu ma re se wara. Deba yueme la tene jukba dan dogba kala yin se. Dida dreji sabu la sokba ase. Dreji sabu la sokba tezuki. Dreji nyugu ya kigi ordo. O te kigi ordo koran niba yonsu soso na. Ani nyugu ya ten yunguru mato chigi. Sabi digi ta nyugu kigi yin sam samlu tansu na nyugu ki. Tanda kigi me sana nyugu me kiwa tende ki rali ma re sora. Sabi maa tab chudan tueshe le sokba lenji chigi. Sabi dala nyelen sigira. Lenji chigi chudan tuwe le sokba sa le sokba tezu kanga lenji chigi rwa. Nyelen teda lenji du roba chigi dala lenji chigi sigara. O tezu soso na, niba yonsu soso na, niba kien wu re se. Ina ko kie ku samsam padu ku deya yuwa ma re se. Niba yonsu so na, niba kie re se. Niba yonsu so na, tanda ko kyudili ya deba kie ku samsam, ta kie ku samsam ten, o tende deba le to ku ma re se kwa ra. Nongba yin ji se. Dita dreji sabi la sokpa kyuso tsangde, kyu sokpa kanga tsangso na, dreshin dreji na rwa. Dreji nyugu kiwe niba tomi yuebe kabla, ta niba chazan tsang na ni, niba tokpa meba, ta ya tili lakwa niba dre mena ni kodi ya drebuti kiengu ra, niba tomi sigra. Yuebe kabla shen sushigi mendu chansi, o shen niba mena ko kyujin niba yon sode ni kiengu re. Majime samne ke ugure. Kui majime samne ke ugure swara. Sushi ke jam mendo jam nyugu ke las. Debu di ke ugure se. Tende niba mena shenjin de jam. Tende niba mena. Kewe nyele da lenji chigi niba tokpa meba de ya. Chasan niba yonsu tokpa cha mena. Ni debu kik ma re swara. Shenda niba yona kik ma re se. Kulin niba yona da mena da de kik ma re swara. Tende niba mena shenjin de jam debu ane kiwa mayimba shino se. O te shilo ya.
So here, then picking up in the text, and I'm not sure if I may be marked at the wrong point, but here picking up then at page 43, following this quote from the Compendium of Reality. Here we've been talking about the kind of problem of a divine creator being permanent, as the Buddhists leveled against those who would assert some kind of a divine creator. A permanent creator, if they have sort of if there is this kind of, and they use various words, the sort of Indian systems or whatever, to refer to this kind of being who is able to produce the world and its inhabitants, if they are permanent, then whatever ability they have to produce all of these various results has to always be there. And so here, coming back to the text and the sort of rejoinder from those who do assert that there is some kind of a divine creator of the world, they say, the divine creator of the world can always produce all effects without experiencing the fluctuation of increase and decrease. The fault of producing all effects at one time does not occur. So here, again, if the Buddhists would say that if this divine being has the ability to produce all of these various effects and isn't affected in any way by increase or decrease, they always have this ability, then they must do this at all times. They must be producing all of these sorts of causes at all times, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. But the sort of rejoinder to that is to say the fault of producing all effects at one time does not occur. How does the creator produce effects? He does it by the power of his wish. So if you're going to say, well, they're permanent and they always have this ability to create all of these causes and in all situations, but they don't do so because they bring forth these kinds of various results in accordance with their wish. Well, this raises the following problem. Things that are effects give or cease to give their effects depending on the persistence or cessation of the complete causes and conditions that produce them. Again, these things are dependent upon having all of the causes and conditions come together, and that's what produces a particular result. How can they give or cease their effects in dependence on a wish alone? So it is like this: the seeds of the fruit and so on produce a sprout, even without the wish of a creator, once the complete causes are assembled, whereon the capacity to produce the sprout or the effect here is unhindered. So once you have all of the causes and conditions assembled, that is what allows, say, something like a sprout to come forth from a seed. If you have the substantial cause of the seed and then all of the coordinating conditions, there's no sort of, all of those things are unhindered. It's going to bring forth a result. There's no way that it's dependent upon the sort of wish of a creator, the desire of a creator for that to come forth. And on the other hand, if the capacity is hindered, if you don't have all of the causes and conditions in place, then the effect will not arise, no matter how hard someone might wish it. So again, we can see that causality works in such a way as when all of the various causes and conditions come together, when they are assembled, they have the potential to give rise to that effect. And so they will do so even without any kind of wish or desire from some kind of a creator being. So here, this is what is being argued here.
Oh yeah. This solution been done on the social state conjunct yora. The solution been done less. Tell us I come down the yamdo. Dog is sabbath tempe chow yamdo mesemsos. That being a Yugurachi, drag English Batabina, Nissala Tengiri, Chula Tengiri, Jola Tengiria, or the Nilunga Tengiri, Namgatong San Tengira, Tazula Tenani, I get what it or the Inde, tell us solution bedole, tell us Saya come Gandinamdo, Saya come de Cotembe Chawachigora, a tree come de Lembe Chawachigora, Lungi come de Yako, Genia, Bue Chawachigora. Any ati trailer so but they so ya gevata or tindiko tumu maiba so chawachigora. Sabin ne korango ya rendro at chigora. Shenda do ko ngo di pan jurolia kashi tembe chawachi kashi give Dongsan namga de gebe chawachi ko tongba many ya gesa ragumaro. 그래서 강갈 땡겨 왔다. 사다, 추다, 저다, 롱다, 남가 동산다. 그래서 강갈 땡이 야기고 와라. 그래서 소소소게 투모 많이 된 누버리라도 하티 누베견에 총아레스티 셰고라. 제부 참마 탐제데 라랑가 투모 많이 봐. 계시가 누버 예배 교대게 그나 투모 많이 배 자와 가르네 티치그리 마도 규칙은 제부 참마 탐제 계가 자와 참마 제토 마레스고라. 티 자와 제등에 티 자와 제고 요삼케 삼고 마로 그나 누버 요 존이야 자와 제대 요 마도지 자와 제베 누버디 준 좁소나니 자와 제용 거 마도 딜이야 텐데 삼고 마레스 티 가르소라. 뉴베견에 좋아서도 안 가죠. 달에 마부셔서봐. 대진 레버리 좋아들이야. 뉴베견에 때문에 좋아서. 요함베견에 때문에 좋아서. 시기봐. 뉴베견에 때문에 좋아. 요함베견에 때문에 좋아서. 되니 그다 제발에 좋아서. 미다부터 매견에 좋아서. 숨쉬도 숨도 시기봐. 지당하다 때문에 시도와. then 뉴베견에 좋아서. 요함베견에 좋아서. 미다부터 매견에 좋아서. 숨쉬기도 와. 뒤에 미다바스도 교대 딱바이네 연구 말에 교 좋아지 미다바 거래에서 시작도 딱바이네 네버 강가 찾아 여ren 제부 딱바리 시켜기부 되고 그랬잖아. 좀 미다바 또 맞서니 겨울 사추 멜로 남가 사베 뜻을 뒤에래고 유로에 지하철은 거기도 와 되게 교칙이 와래. 그래서 강가를 뜬 것도 와. 그래서 강가 소소소고 틈을 많이 배차와지야 누가 라랑 그 자래가 레레 가가가가 내가 지야도와 자와 지야도와 뒤뒤 가르소래 니베견에 좋아서 사이는 사고랑 팀모만 ben 니버지 가르치 그래 추 가르치 그래 뒤 소소소 자와를 지야요라 니베견에 좋아서 시기도와 근데 사변이 안 되냐면 다가 요거 깨버 제도 삼 기인 삼개와 삼고 말해 제라 그런 규제야 차서 그 요구야 깨겨라 누구되게 나 사변되게 계속 사다 주다 매다 저저 텐데션은 나 계속 삼lok에 고 말해셔래. 그런 네버 저서 야께 그 말도 고 네버 저 맞아 깨져래. 네버께 맞게 깨져래 말도. 네버 저 나께 그 삼사다 텐데를 뛰고 말해서 그래. 요함에 베껴냈더니 중앙에 시기도 너게. 사변 되냐면 다가 누구께 버셔 제도 삼사고 말해서 누구 고라게 나이 사벽에 깨버리셔서 삼고 말해. 싸게 양에 땜배 자와치기 삼고 말해. 누구게 사벽에 나라 땜배 자와치기 삼다 텐데 로요 요하고 말해. 네버 요소 소마저래 마도 둘에 삼로 유메게 말해서 어디 단다시에 뒤시거랑 도되게 살고 잠벤도게. 텔라 사이에 감변 되냐면도 다게 사벽 tembe chawa nyamdo mesimso ta sheba nesu teneje sa chu melo namga ene karso de tule so ba kangale rang chawa cheda de donar so yara ne sabyo debu korange sabyo ya de nyamdo ta sabyo ya de nyamdo ta ge nyugu ngomba trupso nyamdo mesimso sabyo de nge nyugu ngomba nyele chene truba chebe sa singu marese nyugu ya de nyamdo ta ne ken de da ge ngomba trupso nyamdo 메세 메게서 어떤데 삼루타는 기가 말해서라 왜냐 겐데다 여발에 사변 각바나 요공원 bar joan joroso o 겐데다 상소나 아니 사변데 방가는 jorne 요구데 타도라 사변데 요구데 도거라 요공원 bar dro바 요로 셰송 바타로스 어디 담마데 셰데 설루잠벤도나 강가 요르로 어제도 콩타라 티치
So here, then quoting from the Rice Seedling Sutra itself, it says, regarding that, it does not occur to the earth element. I perform the function of supporting the seed. So here, a seed generating a sprout is dependent upon various different things, various causes and conditions. So the sprout needs that seed is kind of like a substantial cause, but there are also these coordinating conditions, which each have their own sort of unique function in the ripening of that seed into a sprout. So the earth element acts acts to support that seed. The sort of water element moistens the seed, the fire element ripens or matures the seed, and then the air element opens the seed, and the space element is what allows for that sprout to come forth. If you don't have empty space for that to expand into, then you can't have a sprout arise. So as quoting from the sutra, it says, it doesn't occur to the earth element. I perform the function of supporting the seed. Similarly, it does not occur to the water element. I moisten the seed. It does not occur to the fire element. I mature the seed, and so forth. There's no sort of thought involved, like that of a creator or an intentional kind of a thought on the part of these various elements. But the action happens when all of the proper causes are assembled. So here, when it comes to this kind of situation, it's not as though any of these particular causes and conditions has a thought that precedes it. And so when, again, we are sort of establishing the defining characteristics of what is dependent arising, as has been stated, one of the defining characteristics is that it's not produced, there's no production from a cause that is a creator's thought. Production is only from a cause that is not a divine creator's thought. It's also production from multiple and impermanent causes. And as well, it has to be production from a cause that has the capacity to give rise to a particular effect. So here, again, it is independence upon all of these various things coming together. So multiple and impermanent causes, each of those elements is themselves impermanent. That's how they have the capacity to give rise to a particular result. And each has their own sort of unique function or capacity. They have to have this sort of, as the third quality states, that a cause has the capacity to give rise to a particular effect. So there's a kind of coherency there. There's no need to have this sort of thought or intention, like for the earth element, like, oh, I'm supporting this seed, in order for it to carry out that function. Nor does there need to be this sort of thought on the part of the seed when it actually produces a sprout, when the sprout is produced from a seed. It doesn't have the kind of thought, I was produced by these conditions. There's no sort of intention there. However, when these conditions exist and the seed ceases, a sprout will be produced. So, and then it continues with a quotation from the Seedling Sutra. Similarly, up to when a flower exists, a fruit will also be produced. So there's no sort of creator involved. There's no sort of divine thought, nor is there thought or intention on the part of these various causes. The sprout doesn't think either that it was, oh, I was produced from these particular causes. Rather, when these causes and conditions come together, effects are produced, and there's nothing beyond that that is necessary.
No, yeah. Would it this songs? Oh, that on that deca soda. Oh, don't you hear? That on that day shared the Karisha Gurisana. Jebabo Shandaji called Session Yongi Marese. So the Sososoge, Jawasangi in other, me, Tewatunga in other, Sososu Jawasangi Yongi Ores, Juna Kenlitan Yongi Haramato, Shandaji to put Jangenda, Tirichin get you Marese Wardo. Simjan Shangi 2 member Chera. Simjan Nambrina Yongiba, Simjan Shangi 2 member, they do Torno Debena, member Nanny also less. Simjan Shandaji, Soja Shandaji, Nazo Rameba. Kashe mele kecho, kashe tanto ke, kashe tunge kecho, tende che maare se ora. Soja shenda che ngazo rao meba tunge nyangcho, tewal topcho tende yo maare da se ora. Soso ke, sangye ke chawa sangye, lunga yusum ke chawa sangye le tene, kyo nga me chawa sangye le tene. Tsendi lunga yusum chawa sangye le tene, tewada tunge yungi ora mato, shenda che ke soge yo maare se. Soso le ra le ora se, te she ge ora. Goba tere mato, shenda de, Kabachi seven Tito Mato. Soso Ketchevarese. Jitin Chevapo, Tinte Songechi Unati, Yagari, Diorako, Sorochanade. Soso Ketchemborese, Tangi Tag and Gani des. Shani Sushin Gondo Jursungudo. 레당 멤버 제발 당니 다 방배 소소 야고 제마 가르치고 소소 레알 따게 전 제부터 연구를 선거도 이거 그거 저도 뒤라 띵아죠 하고 그러마도 되네 현다질 지세대도 삼마도 뒤 그거 데카레스나 뒤 현다질 발로 계셔는 배 다시 장담부터 연구인데 되게 텐데라 말에서 소소 계신 소소 자와상에 돼 뒤교단 견디 뒤레마도 파조디 장장 말에서 어디 고고야라 야 되시나
So here, then, when it comes to this kind of the various results, it's not as though a different kind of creator makes all of the experiences that we have, or that our kind of happiness and suffering is in some way dependent upon their thought or intention. As is explained in the Pramanavartika, that our sort of happiness and suffering isn't given by another living being. It's not as though another living being is able to sort of make us, put us in this kind of situation, but rather our situation of being under the control of our karma and afflictions is really due to our own mind. Our own happiness and suffering are dependent upon the actions that we ourselves have created. And so in turn, turning away from this idea of a divine creator is not just for the sake of refuting the views of others, but rather this is because it is so important to emphasize our own conduct. As the Buddha has said, you are your own protector. No one else can be your protector. You are the witness to the good and bad that you have done. And so the main purpose of teaching this is to sort of take responsibility for our own actions, to recognize that our actions of body, speech, and mind, the kind of karmas that we create, are what determine our happiness and suffering. It's not as though someone else, some other living being is somehow giving us happiness or suffering or could take that away. It is our own actions that are determinant of what will happen.
Oh yeah, 저기 대체 시내고 뭐다 엉에마 간좀 가서다 쇼나리 셰단 내신제나 제부터 저 강가데 제부터 줄 때는 교대원도 송한테 보여라 반낭기 도안도 비시냐고 맹원도 송하래도 도와용도 왔다 메싱엘이 오래서 디포트 보여라 제부터 경원도 송한테 보여라 망자 디체 아니야 줄에 때는 제부 중한테 내 제변에 내다 사다 추다 류다 저다 셀어서 강가 상대이나 신거 야보치 답셔나 다들도 야보치 용에 타체를 까지 짜다 뭐 타체가 말아 내서 추류 주시 소바 상을 신을 때니 제부터도 표준 소바한테 중예바데 줍토고 말이셔 남과 같은데 세면된 주나 있잖아 중예시라 중예바데 신거 야보 싶으시다고 강가 다다 있던데 야보치 연구를 삼사 개롱한테 보토고요라 가이는 가지 자탐바 중예바데 타지 정말 되니 버를 가르가르치래 니마망아 텐도에니 추망아 영도에나 사변샤로 기도에나 텐데요 말은 개개 용시버와 세상에 중예바데 보고 말해셔 중롱한테 보고 그래셔 오다 달로 텐도 야부 용사에 사다 강가 르데 강가 야부 총송삼 롱한테 제부터도 표선 소본 중롱한테 보고 그래셔라 어디에 내가 아주 체리 버체데 깨지 총선하게 가서 머리 이내시티나래 깨지지 보다 따게 거네 리베트 땅쪽으로 깨지 총선 공개된 데서서 어디 남베티 텐지리 베션에 제부터도 경원도 소하데 망쳐한 레비션에 교디 보기도 와서 체리 버체네 망쳐 줄을 때는 레비 중한테 보기도 했어서 어디시데 나중에 줄을 때는 제부디 보여야 보다데 내서 줄을 주시 소바자 신체체 란데 내지 누구 종롱 인데선 종롱게에서 다야부지 용게에서 콘제티 보고다 종톱게에서 되네 제마 종소나 아니 다티 종롱을 되는 보고에 삼고도 한전 종롱한테 또 와래 내 카두켄 따다고 종하러와 종예버데 보토고 말해서 그래 맞아 줄을 때는 제부 종롱하데 용기 여버데도 보거라 내가 내려내리잖아 다 텐데 야부 용거리사 lobzong de yabu cheshira chen de tanga ang yabu thogre samsa rong rong de ra ja ji ja de de ra de ko boto mar do ja to ingi kyole de ne debu khande khande jong rong de po yo re debu le de ne kyo khande khande ngon de song de po yo ra po si de she thog yo ra tu thog yo ra o ti chi lab ne ta
So here, as is explained in the various kind of great texts regarding cause and effect, the way that we understand this, it is suitable from examining, say, a particular effect to sort of estimate or be able to determine what kind of causes preceded that particular effect. And then on the other hand, if we have a particular set of causes and conditions that have come together, we can determine, we can sort of understand that that is suitable to give rise to a particular effect. But it's not possible to really say with certainty that it definitely 100% will give rise to that effect. So say, for example, you have a place where you've made a nice field, you've gotten it nice and cleared, you have your seeds, you have all of the various kinds of conditions, the water and the heat and all of those things. It's not necessarily 100% the case that you are going to get a good harvest from that crop. And well, why is that? It's because that there's the potential for bad conditions to come about. You could have too much sun, or you could have not enough rain. You could have birds steal your seeds. All of those sorts of things are possible to come about. So we can say that a particular collection of causes is suitable to generate a particular result, but not that it is definite to generate that particular result, because of the fact that there's sort of all of those potential negative conditions that could come into play. And so here, generally, when it comes to the sort of scientific method, Western science looks at, oh, this cause is what will bring about this particular result. And they're trying to look at it in that way, whereas most of the time we look from an effect and say, oh, this is the cause that led to this particular effect. We can definitively say that this cause led to a particular effect ripening. But again, looking from the causal point, you can't say with 100% certainty that this cause will generate this effect. We can say that it is suitable to generate that particular effect, but because of the sort of uncertainty of the world, there's no way to definitively say that it will bring that particular result. So we can fathom, we can sort of infer from a particular result that a cause came before, and we can also infer that a particular cause is suitable to lead to a particular result, but not that it 100% will.
oh yeah what did it oh ding ma kar so re pige nang be tenji ri pe to ne tenji ge ju chen de ju che de po dan po lu ko ya jo te le che ra o te de ke shi tam du la yo re te bi je re me shi no ya te de so o de chi la me da
네, 연결서로 좋다.
oh ding ma emori ne si tu te ya
네.
ri ba aja chi na nyam do nang be tenji ri be to ne ju chi de ju che po dan po lu ko ya kan de si she to gyo re te ko lo so so o
네.
ti de san de se ri ba de se sa ju le te ne je po de sa de mang cha de se tan de ti de ke she tam de la yo re se ke she tam de la ke she tam de la tan de nga ju te yo re
Yeah.
o de se
So here, this is coming from a conference that was held at Emory, talking about the sort of the logic, the way in which Buddhists describe their logic. And so Geshe Dramdullah, who's there, may remember this, talking about the sort of way in which scientists look more at the cause and say we can infer a particular result will come about. But again, then the Buddhists look more at the result and say what cause led to that. Again, there not being 100% definitive certainty that a certain cause will produce a certain result.
oh yeah ta yang ji den go ba pe se ta yang ji den go ba pe se wang ju la so ba te ju so go ra xian la zhe wei dang se xian la zhe wei ko ne denen dam den zam ni dam da ta te du dam da kyo dam da tu zu xian la zhe wa chen de se ba ma re sta lian ro sa ra xian la zhe wa chen de se ba yin na 네 강갈 야고 소라 도고도 저네 가르치 그래서 도고도 당분에 마셔는 야고로 와 심지 제방에 받아 상부장선 야고로 왔다 랍사로 근데 제왕게 근데 서봐야 말해서 온줄라 속배 지된 거가 봉원족에 시할라 제베다 제메 초디안에 제메 초를 서르베 다가서 초다기 되듯이 점집에 내신 대화 동안 라면도 써야 돼 말해서 내잡겨라 지된 거가 보시한라 저와다 제메 초도 지된 나서반데 좀 마이게 세텐데서 말해서 은장 지더를 살아 속ben 중화 전부 남랑긴 대부께 발란 죽바 대신도세 사다 주다 메다 롱다 대조 랑랑 대부께도 하세 고체외 권에 개 말을 잼매출에 개 말을 고란 기다지도 와세 어디나신 지된 거바 보원줄로 속바게 대부께가 와래서 나스기 와래다던다 지더를 살아 속ben 중화 전부 남 사추 메론 슬라소거라 남 랑긴 데부 깨발란 죽바 대신도세 거바보 대자세 지텐 거바보 원줄라 소바 대자 니슈나 소반 데다 깨버시바이노세 너지 지텐 드라멘다 슈기 셈젠 드라멘다 데두 드라멘다 펜션 드라멘다 어때서 강가 깨바야세 나스거라 서주 멜롱기 데부 끼도 어디내신 깨버려 저 여바다 지텐데다 제모제베 주데 텐데 마르세 기수대 셰 텐데 인세나 소라 냠나세 텐데 삼바이나 소라 텔레안 데다르 토데스 게데 테다나 지덴 고바보데 직부 자와 잠게 니슈나 소반데다 맞아 게데 테다나소 텐데 이나소라 게데 텐데 이나세 지덴 고바보 대직부 자와 잠게 지된 거 바보 온줄라 소바 대식비 자와 잠게 니슈나 소반데다 종와는 주르시네세 대코랑 대 여바되게 사추 멜롱기야 잘라 소바다 싱라 소바야 끼바나시 끼기요나 아니 지된 거 바보 대코랑 여바 잠게 코나 딱바레 되어라 강가야 끼기요나 시고라 티나 대단한 지된 거 바보 대식비 자와 잠게 니슈나 소반데다 종와는 주르시네세 그런 집이 자와게는 좋아지세. 그냥 유도 강도야. 유에서도 농발을 써요라. 뒤에서도 그 뒤지가도 있네서라. 좀 섭게. 무서워라. 유도 강도야서. 그래도 유에서도 농발 가봐 있나서라. 뒤지가도 있나야서라. 유도 강도야. 니주 강야 나르메 사도 견여바 인고세 니주 강야 너진지 된스도 사시코나시고라 주시도 심제도 소서 롱쟁게 심제도 시고라 다부도 소서라 니주 강야 나르메 사도 견여바 인고세 나르메 바제 사바사바 야케고요 와세 대단한 직된 거바 본데 칭니라 니주 멘다와 신도시여바 탐제 기베 의준 네버 통메 여반 줄시스 되는 지된 거바고 코나리아 너지 지된 메다다 주지 심제 메다와 대수 상마 계획에 네버 차상 코나를 여고도 와서거라 니주 메다와 람 메다마 보여라 메다와 여바 탐제세 기베 의준 네버 통 의주스도 준 네버 통메 들으시거라 주주스도산 단단 고르네 끼그라 단단 고든데 끼들 규베 주스그라 무주스도 땅어서 깨진 이번에 밖에 쉬어줘 그 규들 무주스기 와라 지된 거 봐도 뒤따도 유미 딱배 ngor에 배서 지된 거 봐도 딱 봐도 봐서 근데 네가 되네 따도 네가 톡바 매바도 따도 여여 버려 와서 된 유아를 버쳐야지 네가 체르로 말아 미다바 매자 미다바이네 고추도서 당분 네버 춘주제니 야 네버 페르신 데부기라 지된 거 봐도 된대시요 말아 딱 봤습니다고 유로체시야 야르야 페르 네버 체르 된대도 말아 근데 네버 젠도 따도 여거라세 대단한 지된 거 봐도 된 바시 유베 지된 거 봐도 바시 유베 대장장게 깨대도 왔다 지신 나서라 소보다 강가 nöje jiden de chu simje kanga jiden goba bo yoba tege pewa dan driba den de shime go kona yoba chamji sangmaya gesha to wasigora jedana jiden goba de bashi yobe ja drebu 탐제 깨와 여바 타완 주대세 게 여바 참지 제부 견남 깨외 의준 여바 도미 여비세 고라 여바 참지 지된 거바 뭐 여바 참지 고라 니지 지된 담다 참마 깨시 너바 톡바 매바데 여여버 와서라 너바 톡바 매서 깨시 니바니 야 깨셔져 가가 깨와랑 건데 저거 깨셔져 의주스라 의주 주주당 의주스니어라 의주 간거 찾아라 의주 너바 여서 저대니 대부 깨지바 이거로 와서라 의주 너바 마상와 매바 예배소세 제대로 남들레스 마상 메주 telani 대부 간긴도 가셔서 의주 너바 마상와 매바 상소나 소라 의주 주주 마다 의주 깨지 니바를 깨셔줘도 의주 너바 마상와 매바데 사이나 안데 telani 대부 깨와데 수연다야 요 말에 간가 깨지바 되그래서 거라 마상 메주 telani 대부 간도 가셔 숨바다로 어야 되지잖아
So here, then, the sort of rejoinder to this again on page 44 says the divine creator does not produce the various things of this world out of compassion for beings or in the manner of a game. And these are things that we've discussed above and have been refuted. The idea that, well, if this divine creator were in a nature of being compassionate, then why would he have created from the beginning suffering or sort of bad actions and so forth? That doesn't make sense. So the kind of idea that a divine creator of a compassionate nature has created all of this has been refuted, as well as the idea that it's in the manner of a game. Again, that would involve contingency or depending on various things. And so they then continue by saying, rather, just as the great elements, earth and so on, engage in producing their respective effects, so also the divine creator of the world generates this variety of animate and inanimate things. So they would say that in the same way that like the earth sort of acts as a support, the element of earth, the great elements of earth, water, fire, wind, and so forth, each have their sort of nature, the various effects that they produce. This too is the case for this divine creator. The divine creator has this ability from the beginning again, and this generates all of the varieties of animate or inanimate things. So like the inanimate world and those animate beings within it. And so the response to this is then, well, that raises the following problem. If it were like that, then the arising of this variety of inanimate and animate objects would be due only to the activity of this divine creator. Moreover, such a creator would be able to create newly, without any previous existence, all animate and inanimate things at all times and in all places. So again, if this kind of divine creator is permanent in the sense of being unchanging, and they aren't subject to sort of increase and decline, they would have the ability to generate this external environment and the inhabitants of it from the beginning. They have that complete ability. There's no sort of change that comes about. And so none of these things, having existed before, would be newly created by this divine creator, all of the varieties of these animate and inanimate things. And this divine creator, having a permanent nature that is always unchanging, must therefore have such an ability constantly. So it's not as though, again, if this kind of divine creator is permanent and unchanging, then they have the complete ability to give rise to all of the varieties of world systems and the beings within them. There's nothing that they need in addition to that to bring those forth. And so they should be producing them at all times, in all ways. And so here there's a sort of a phrase that says that they like have the ability to generate all of these things in a way that's like they're the proximate cause of that. They're not sort of acting as like a farther down the road kind of cause, but they're the proximate cause. They are that which is bringing about all of these things by themselves. And if it is the case that their power is not obstructed in any way, they have this ability constantly, then just by existing, just by being, they should be bringing forth all of these kinds of worlds. So if this were so, then as only this divine creator of the world exists, they're the sole sort of existent, he or she must constantly be creating all effects without any interruption, for he or she has the complete capacity to produce these effects instantly, merely by existing. So it's kind of like, without any other necessary cause, just the existence of this divine creator should mean that their ability, they have the ability to instantly, without needing any other kinds of causes, bring forth all of the various world systems and the beings within them.
Oh yeah. Yang de se do. Yang peji toa chengi rebu pajala sogbas. Peji toa chensena tom sigra ngajo buchi yungu. Niti kachu ina chi ma kubarishi ma bu tangche. Ani pangu tuzu simbidwa. Peji toa chen. Bishwa chen. Tom sigra ngajo tom buchunju chiwa. Hakogiwa.
Hakogi.
Oh yeah, I didn't. Peji toa chengi se. Ko peji toa chen. Jogo nal pe yore sigar. Pe rabura si kuba chabu tere tangche. Kaskal kolo rabtinde seche kun busi megi chi sogudwa. Odil sigara. Peji toa chengi rangi drebu pajala soga. Pajas de ko korare kya pache suchen bukanga te yona simcho che ka sora. Tinal tsundrune droya mebe se shekdwa. Desigora. Peji toa chengi rangi drebu pajas de ko kya kuba mambu chamudi papu su tangsha shita desigora. Pajala soba ngo ni ki kebalan jugbar che jang ko rang shingi ko di kurang busaya tendal tende ko rang shingi pajato sogudo asegora. Kebalan jug jang se. Drebu nam chiksha do ke mego bashin. Drebu chiksha ke kumandwa ko kali sogudo asegora. Tanda ta de takba yina drebu kanga chiksha do ke gure se soa sheba bode. Mahombana rim jindamida kali mahombana mambu ke ora tuzu tanda ne ke ure tanda ne ke chi nebo yon so pa yor wasi kyon chu gyo da cheza odi ku mare tom dozo ke korang pangu simye tanda ya pajet zo rangshin ki ko soya ku yor te ine tuichik to so ko me do kali so do asi gore rim dinna shi re se jidan go ba po ke dinna shi rim so yore ta ba ina tuichik to Rebunam Chungu Mari Keku Mare Sigara. Eke Toa Chenji Rangi Rebu Pajala Sopa Ngonyeki Kebala Jubar Chejan, Rebunam Chikjadu Ke Meguba, Teshin Dosura, Jiten Guba Bejan, Rebunam Rangshingi Kebala Jubar Chejan Se, Rangshingi, Ramadu Cheni Kebala Juguresora. Rebuna Chikjadu Ke Meguse. Meko so nyam na se hote ko rangshin ki ke ba ina rawan che ke ba ina chiksha do ke ma do se tom de tom ta to so ka ga ne ya ke de rangshin ki ke ga do ko tu chi do ke ma do te de chi ba nyam na se ora ya te ya mi te de so te de ma do se ra pe ji to a chen ki pa je thak ba kyong ane pe ji to a chen de ge se ro Pajasigra, Paje Takbadi Kaskal Pa Kangdwa, Yada Yonche Color of Social. Johalan Jubaya, Social Sour Debe, Juba Yingis, Social Sad and Tinan, Buddha's lips on the Tati, Simshagris, and Sago Samiko, Tisovi or Mato Rangshin, Taras Sovi or Mareswara. Sour Debe, Juba Yinki, Rangshin, Jubani Mainos, Rangshin, Kulumevre Taras, Tisua Marco Samlutane. Posokja Sandune Niti Sogudu Sigora. Tedare Cedule, Semete Konani Tuvalera, or Tatu Sankara Sigra. and the Casura. Long Jambra, Shandirashitagimba. Paja Palan Ranshin is Palang Jas, Paja Cedra, Domdatis Gora. Ranshin is Neme June Mendutis. Koranshin get Nelmas Tabachunju Casca Tabasora, the Chunju Casca Paya de Segura. Neme June Mendutis. Nicolana. Consider Soldier Sandele. Kaju in a tower, so soldier Sandon, Koran Kaju, Kajagan, Kaju say Kaju Mare Chimber so the Chile. Soldier Sandele, Kaju in a tower, so at tower Busimeg, tower nation, social racer, she some bataro, ya, digital. So go.
So here then, just to conclude the previous point, from Dharmakirti's Compendium on Valid Cognition, he states that for something that has all the causes, how could the effects ever cease? So again, if that kind of divine creator has all of the ability or the power, then how could the effects that they create ever cease? So here, the sort of one who asserts a divine creator comes back and says, just as a spider creates its web and so on naturally, without having to produce its effects all at once, so the divine creator creates his effects naturally and does not need to produce effects instantly. So the sort of language that they use is a little bit older, but here in the English, it's quite clear. A spider, a being that creates a web, they assert here that that spider does so naturally, like the way that they create this thing that has various threads that catch insects. Again, when a spider is doing so, it's not instantaneous. Rather, they have to sort of lay these threads out and create a web. And so as a sort of response to the Buddhists saying, well, if something is permanent, if it has the ability to produce all of the various effects all at once, like it has all of the ability, then why would it not produce the effects all at once? And so their rejoinder is to say, well, these things that can, having the ability to produce it doesn't mean it's going to all be produced at once. Rather, it will come in sequence in the way that, say, by nature, they would say a spider creates this web and it takes them time to do so. It's not necessarily the case that all of the effects have to be produced instantly. And the Buddhist response to this is that this is also not tenable. It's not that a spider spins the threads of its web out of a desire. It is the case. A spider spins the threads of its web out of its desire to eat insects. It does not do so simply by nature. It's not as though it's just this nature of a spider to lay a thread, to make this kind of a web, but rather they're doing it for a purpose. They're doing it in order to catch insects, to eat something. And so it's not sort of a natural occurrence in the way that these proponents of a divine creator would like to assert. So here, quoting again from Shantarakshita's Compendium of Reality, it says, a spider does not naturally desire to use its threads for a web. It's not like it just sort of does this just because, but rather it's out of its desire to eat insects that it creates a net from its saliva. And we can, there might be different types of spiders that either use their saliva or something else to make a web, but in any case, they're not doing so just out of nature or sort of being compelled without any kind of reason or just because of their nature again, but rather it's out of a desire to eat insects. There's a certain motivating cause here. So this is not a tenable example of the way in which a divine creator produces.
Oh yeah. Yang jiden goba bu shenla tsewe ta taya di lan jabe to sigora. Jiden goba bu shenla tsewe kone niju ji jiden ramen da to soba ma rese. Ne tsemu tsewa na shigi jiden na soba to goba ma rese. Ya lo da menden be kyo oni kade sora sana. Lo da menden be kyo kanshi se samlu ta ne tende che mendo ga shi ta se kamdo lo tromle ta se roshane. Tambu cheshire mebe se ko Loda Mendembe, Tawasian Roshan Kaskal Camdon de Gesiora. Loda Mendembe Kyo Gashi Kando, Roana, Tochu Kaya Mebase, Kawando Kawamendo Tambuni Cheshike Mebase, Eko Tawaspan Roshan. 먼저 첨대지 도네 다가서 간지 먼저 가서 가는 도시하라. 어디 내신 도네 소라. 강도 도 독주 삼로 땅에 다 제반도 가야 마셔세. 매발 랑가르스 다가스 거라 랑가르 다가스. 랑가르 지시 따른 죽바 대신에 코라 가와가 다가스 도샤 바 참체 다가스 도샤. 지시단 죽바 신도. 지단 괴바부 잔테단 지대 괴발란 죽바 지단 괴바부 지단 괴바데어 텐데 삼로 땅 지시다 시다케 제마로 코라 미치 고 참도네 삼로 시다 마단 파선 도네 가스칼 도샤이스도가 디네시 랑가르 정화지레스 나스거라 지단 괴바부 죽바 이노시나스 대다리 지단 괴발란 죽바 이노시나스 오 미티 삼로 마단에서 도저 가면 다서 봐 참도도 와서 가서 도샤도 디네시체 세버스나스 대다나 신도 몽베 냐발라 속베 교 타메바 남기 시글레 하거라 지대 교디 시그남 치더라 똑바단 담바 다게 송와라 어바는 교대 메교로사 어디네 제제데 가서라 시다 내가 메게 차서 하시거라 그냥 냐발라 속 냐심게 롭좀 치 마체게 텐데시네고 삼루타제 콜레가 지르마도 삼루제 마다네 냐심멜 속바 지단 롭좀 매네고 텐데시 마로 하시거라 계속 치나시 계속 삼루탄다래 매매 삼루 소리지레스거라 노소로 리사시 신남 제대로 똑바단 덴바다게 소화르바 남주 챙기 녀거바다 녀베 깨져게르면 도와서 돼 그다가스도 소샤레스는 삼로 미세마다제 잠바체가 코네케 마르 세메출레 마르 라 지신나셀로 소사토조 깨바나시 깨바야 마르 다가스 코란도 스케버레스나스거라 오 그네 대단한 제들레스 제텐데 롱타라 걔디 지시 따르죠 나서 다가서 그 소원을 주고 이나서라 대 중대 진다시 강시 냐바야 텐데 중에 지 삼루도 루준데 가게 매버세 딘데레세 가게 매버세 강기 냐바 야 메셀레 강시를 냐스게 롭좀 맹게로다 자가도 바이네 라루 송게 롭좀 스마체 라루 잔서 추주가네 소댕도 대저야 그 마체 제바 마체네 레 조고 마레세라 다데 제바 가야 마체네 따서 담다 쳔부데 소샤데 디롱고 마레세오라 내가 주면 유르셰 송바타로시야 대질라마
So then they come back again, and again, someone who would assert that there is some kind of a divine creator, they then begin to go through other options. So the divine creator does not produce the various things of this world out of compassion for beings or as a game. So those are options that we've already sort of gone through. But instead, they say, just as when those who wander somewhere without much forethought, proceeding without investigation and just doing it in any old way, so the divine creator of the world creates the world. So here, they're then trying to assert that this divine creator doesn't create the world sort of out of compassion for beings or isn't doing it in the manner of a game, but just in a way like when we wander out somewhere without a particular plan and we're kind of walking around going from place to place, this is the manner in which a divine creator is creating the world. They're just sort of doing it without any sort of forethought or sort of particular destination. They don't really think about it. It just kind of happens, sort of just doing it in any old way. So too, this is the way that the divine creator creates the world. Well, the response to that is that, well, why then should thoughtful people keep in mind the words of this creator over and above the words of a common fool? Again, when it comes to any sort of work, even if we haven't particularly studied something in depth, like say you're going fishing and you don't really know much about it, you're still going to think about what you're doing as you're trying to put things together. No matter what activity it might be, it's preceded with some sort of forethought. So here, quoting from the Compendium of Reality by Shantarakshita again, it says, if the creator's manner of engagement is thoughtless, what can we say about his creation? Even a fisherman will not work without first thinking it over. So whatever sort of job it might be, even if we don't know much about it, we usually think a little bit about what we are doing, even if we don't have particular skills. And so it doesn't make sense that a creator would engage in this way that is totally thoughtless, that doesn't have any sort of foresight or planning, just sort of doing whatever.
Oh yeah. There's a changmate, Nima Karsoda. Sanje Jiden Kan Majumbe Kone Yogera. No trees lying in the Yovetendera. Tranchambala Sabotezo de Vashekora. Today, young Kokoran to Tranchambala need to Chungudua. Tranchel Hacheba and Lame Pasha. Lame Patago won't you serve a mother, Chitso Koran Yang Chunga, Chitso Sidia, Tambu Tambu, then the Chigi Simjan Dupsig, due to Tuba Ibala, some man gets you or the Sigara. Oh, dig Koran, Rangshingi, or Kenny Nuju Ginji, then this summer the Chubin Sigara. So call Tigan Jidan Chebabu Meduke. Tranchele Yomi Meda, Yodua, Tranchel Hameba Secretary de Samara. Oh, Tingel Nichi, Mangamada, Chu Messer, Tangimba said the Charok says to the Chuyomar, Jonga Chuma, Judan Chebabu Yomar, the Tarasi Shever stinging in it, but Lotitang in Yodua. Oh, dear. That did and that is a call Shagora. That's something they paid us a lot, Sector Nabja Ra, Neto Nabja Soda. That thing is Chirbuba, that is so Chirbuba Tempati, that was Yamdo Dorsidua. What the nature and the Sunjidan Chebabo came a link with the uncle Casoda, Tantana Shiche, she had a mountain daughter, but the same thing in the door, Chibabu Yomar Secretary. What to do, Koja, Rachaburichingira. Chulunda Meda Mabuyora, Tangjamba said Chibuba, Union and Mabuyora. Oh, the Jun to the Shagiora. Then the shares of the Shun de Garrison, Nambation, Shandy Rakshita, and Samanam de Tisnariora. The condition is so tune, the Red Shasha, and the direction and drink with the direction drink with the school. Casorta, Dodgers or Tuling the Chibi Sorchira. No teacher lama. Things are Saba Love Camara, that or this year.
So here, when it comes to the kind of views of a divine creator, and also those that do not espouse an idea of a divine creator, the views that we're discussing here are those that go back prior to the Buddha. There are older kinds of traditions, like a Samkhyas, for example, and even among those, there are, for example, Samkhyas who are theistic, who assert that there is some kind of creator deity in addition to the primary sort of substance that is the constituent of this world. And there are those that are atheistic, that don't assert any kind of a creator deity, but just this sort of primary substance, this main sort of constituent of the entire universe and its inhabitants. And so these, again, are views that preceded the Buddha. They're those that asserted that there were no past and future lives, no creator whatsoever, and were sort of had a nihilistic view, kind of like the Charvakas or the sort of hedonists, we sometimes call them. So the Buddha's views, however, are from 2,500 years ago, but there were views that came thousands and thousands of years before. There were many different traditions and views that existed in India. It seems like it was quite a free place for various types of thoughts. And so here, when we are sort of looking at the views of these other traditions, they come to us through the sort of work of Buddhists who have looked at the source texts and then have put those views into their own texts, such that we can sort of understand the various kinds of assertions of these different traditions.
Oh yeah. No, that didn't matter. 그것이 어디 가서다 다들 보셔야 만약 지된 거 보면 맨도배 삼주세 다 지된 거 보면 맨도배 삼주세 다 단다 저 지된 거 보면 되시대 이만게매 자가게 뚝다 공부도 루셰기어도 안게만게만 로통다 지자네 지당에 그 삼로 코야를 지요도와 예수 강가 송계지 요래 요마레 간데시 중화레시 삼로 코레 코라카 비시다라 셰던드스로 지등산미 망부요다 간데시 중화레 카레 중화레 삼로제 고기 말도 잠불리 간데시 요래 남과 동바시 길이 차대 요래 간데레 삼로케 쿠코그로랑 신드스테데 던드네시 마도 삼로 코야 가보라 지단에 코테수 강가 교황아마 여마여세다 지된 시바부 여마여 간데시 중화레세 삼로 코야 코란데 야부레도 아예 던드네 시제 가르쳐 뭐 하마고 스테이션에 설지 말아 그래서 그 산지 틀려서 오라 내마치 최게 박샤다지 진짜지만 뭐지 연에 뒤 강사카시 삼로나 연때때 삼로를 거르지 삼로 거라 뒤마도 시 던드네 시제 그 지버레 스테이션에 삼로 거르게 말아 뒤질랍잖아 야 근데 마네 남바가 되시디야 시여라 로가 탄다 야
No. So, there again, these are sort of really old views. There are those who do assert some kind of a divine creator, their views being prior to the Buddhas, and they've really thought about this a lot, thinking about how it is that a divine creator would create the world and the beings within it, and so forth. And again, this sort of thinking about this is something that is good. The kind of assertion of Buddhists that there is no divine creator, getting to that point is dependent upon actually contemplating this and thinking about it. So those who sort of don't question this at all or even put a thought into it are really no different from animals. Whereas having this kind of, when we talk about the enlightened activities of the Buddha, even sort of sparking that kind of question of what is the source of the universe and where did it come from and so forth, this kind of thought is something that is very positive. And so contemplating this and engaging in this way, we could say is part of the enlightened activities of the Buddha.
오야 근데 삼로 코드네 티 송게지 메도 삼 소신 대반나시 용교 말와 출로 자교ren 담면저요레 강에 망부 용교레 티치 송게지 메도 삼 현대지 소신 네베 만단데 하마고 되네야 현대 송게지 메도 삼이 제바보예 마요세로 근데 삼로 코드네 카샤요레 카샤요 마르세 삼로 용교도와 야 디슬라
So some will kind of look at this environment and the various types of like suffering within it and will conclude that there's no way that there could be a divine creator, that there's not some sort of divinity, all-powerful sort of being who made all of these things. Whereas others might look at this and actually conclude the opposite, that it was created by a divine creator.
뭐야 다 지된 거 봐보 맨데베 삼주에서 지된 거 봐보 케메레 남바르 지는다야 지된 신다 tin데 말을 소소 레레 때니 중화를 시거라 소소 고슴 길래 단당가라주 첸딜레고 소소 삼로 땅다 아니 르기 자와체다 나게 거네 자와체다 tin데리아 로저 제발 때니고 야와다 동에다 랑 데베 던다 투베다 맨데바 세야다 tin데 용데도 아중을 숨도 뚝대야데 첸딜레 미강게레가 제 삼루타 시기도아 삼루타 디자고 셈벨레 시기오라 엔테네 칸네 케제셰 르파주 투주스테 레사기오라 르가게 레시기오라 tin데체네 아니고 데부티도 용데도아 tin나시 타이교가마 남수 제샹게레 tin데사베 데부 미마도 탄다 첸딜레 미에다 야 첸딜레 차와 tin데체네 데부 미마도 마오발레 미에다 tin데 남샤시셰 되고라 디칠라나
So then from the perspective of those who just assert, like Buddhists, that everything arises from karma, our actions of body, speech, and mind then are what determine our kind of happiness and suffering. This is what brings about these various kinds of results, brings about the world and its inhabitants. And so we can like directly establish this for ourselves. We're constantly creating karmas, both through our intention, the intentional karma, as well as that which is intended by it, the actions of our body and speech that are motivated by those thoughts. So this is what creates the causes for our happiness and suffering, as Buddhists would assert, is that it's our own karma, our own actions, the mental actions as well as the physical and verbal ones based upon that.
Sindel ko samlutam chije kondo da ngaje da densem da shegi karsor lonje top de ta o tinde samlutam entele tene chige chi chubacha tene ma jab kanga che do nara zo mirere kerke tinde che yora ni chokwa ke tinde che lungba ke tinde zambul ko ra tinde che de do yaga de cha samlutam yaga de che robora che tinde yong do sa ko semge samlutam da Lunga Chibal Teneco, Devada Tungeta Chief, Devin over Truva and Mendova said the old devotee, Chendelia Mazuyon Toendoa. O Tina Shiti Kumshidi Jadu, Nikione Kiwa di Kumshidi Unguara. Lessim Samutayanga Karjo Yaga Tunge said the Kanga said the Samko, or Tindration Drote at the Led Giwange, Titu Yonse, Chebabu Shenda Yomare, Soso Leg Yonga Yunguare. Oh, yeah.
So we can establish this directly for ourselves, like by looking to the experience of this life. Like say if we are really negatively motivated and we engage in fighting with others, we're going to experience unhappiness and suffering as a result of those kinds of actions. We can establish this in sort of our own private experience, our individual experience, as well as what happens in groups and then what happens in society and regarding various countries and so forth. So our way of thinking, the things that we place our mind on and the way that we engage with our mind, then leads to how we act, which creates the causes for what we will experience in the future. So our experiences of suffering or our experiences of happiness are directly related to those kinds of causes that we ourselves created.
Oh yeah, no. Sanje batarnase, jiden che mahore, jiden goba bo mendo be samju sudwa. Jiren cheba bo mendo gege samlutan da o ti cholam khande chiwa ti ko shegora samje sira o ti ta lo nye to tugya jenge chongyor do sanje chumden de da ne jen la so jen gi tambal so bo te zo tene ni ti ke che cheba bo mebe tawa to so ngo do sanje ba ta na se takba rang jo ge jiden go ba bo Menayasa, or Tagba Yenge, Rangjung Rangshin ki Tangbunine, or Namba Sanje Bete Kalingi Omara, Kasha Tagba Rangjungi Kibuche Tangbunine Tende Ingeshitu, and the Kasha Ten Tangbunine Yasungi Tungela Sobanyon Denge Tuja Trup Tende Kalingi Omato. Kanga Chipacheni, so Samju Kosum Gichawa Sour Chimney Yaruchi, Samju Neru Nerchin, Turma, Joasangi Dua the Kalingi Ordo. Di duka soda. Sanje ba namba sanje ba tana sora takba yenge rangjung sida kora rangshinge. Namba ine sanje yore, sanje tang meba yore, kyo kun se yende kundi kibu tang meba yore. Tizu rangjung ma re tambu kale kyab. Ranzu de chikba che, ne chamba da tsawa da meda dunga tong tambila sowa shiche ne sulu komba che, sauru che nene yaru nerim ra mambu yungi tuwa. Dende chen ya sanje ramado. Sanje de tambujine sanje gi kyanja ngaranzo kadine kwara ko de tunga nyangwe tinde made sigora anzo yaro do yore ese semde yabuchi wara yabuda tobu karshine semde chida shetungwe chida setungwe hako tungwe chi wara odi yajen do yore ese nganzo sanje yore ese de shigora sanje bata nase takwa ranjo genji de gengobabo Tagba Ranjung Genji de goba bo me na ya chara jigden dinam kyuji mebar rangjung shigya mai be ane dezu ne jigden da chugi semja da chig dezu damada nimanda wala sokba tende shi namba tongbe kel shi damada do hatezu kare sena sigora dezu gyu me na gyu dan ke me ne yongma re sora gyu side ko chaya ke nyele dil sora ken side tel roba chingir sigora chidan ko ken de gyu de gyu dan ken se sune nyele da lenji chigya sora dina gyujin meba rangjung shigya mayin bese gyujin meba se kora rangjung ki rangshin ki tsukta yomba chi maare shara teta ki gyu kanyi nyam nasa tan desu kandes chunga rese kora dana gyu ka rese kibu nambar shebe kiti ki senbe le dasa o miso ku kibu sudu kansal sikora nambar shebe semle sikora kiti la sembele dansa kewa da tikpa kole samlo tanga ke sembele desi wara semki samlo tangra chawa sangbo dechi samta chawa ngenpa shenla nyoba da chawa la soba roa ya shenla penpa la soba kewa da tikpa samlo te esi wara kewa la jungdu ki samlo tikpa la jungdu ki samlo tala sembele esi doa semki samlo tanga de kicho la jukbar chenge ki sheba shidwa tala sembele esi wara oh timbasa tetabe number sheba kitiji sembe le da se number sheba kewa da tikbe le la ba sember sheba sembatela es gora sembe le es gora tele chunwe se te samlutane chawara yakure samlutarwa miji kange yubare samluta tatel roba chegure samsare samlukorina sembe yigi le kewa derwa tateletene pachi ni roba chisachi mengale ti karichugune roba cheche sheba kane keji sheche de ni lygi le da ngagi le sigara lunga yisum ki le sigara yi le sembati che tambo sembati kune lambe kane keji she da ni lygi paje suju she da roba che kanga lunga ki chawani de lygi ki le da ngagi le sigara number she sembe le da se tele chung ye lunga ge le sangi tuma shi le se lu da nga ge le kuno sangbu kuno la ne lunga ge le sangbu yongore kuno ngembe kuno la ne ani lunga ge chawa ngembe yongora no sangi tuma shi le se ne kibu tidu nyongwe tendo ne da sa kibu tidu nyongye ge ten ba shi chi lia tidu nyongwe tendo se ne danse ne sajara chi koro ko tidu nyong sa shi de sar chi koro ti sa shi ti sora ne jin chi den sora dewa da tungye nyongye ge shi de lia ne danse ni nyongye ge lu te le sora mi da na wa da na da che da su da chi ru de che so long che ne dewa da tungye nyongye ge lu chi koro so bu ti sora nyongye tendo ne danse sa shi ti che ne jin ji de sora lu so trum ne se ni lu tubra atele tene ni so dewa tunge da tende da me da kanga tubur do me ke number shiva na number shiva ne number shiva yu to zo al tene ti ya bundu sam to bundu sam tene so dewa ke tunge ke ni dewa tubya da tunge se ta da le samlata ti ta da lu nga ge le sa je to de yo do ti ngan zo ha ko de yo ra ti tu nyewe tendo ne da lu so trum ne te da le kim te da la se ra ki bi long che ba na se long che je ne jin ji de tu re long che je lu to re te le de ne me na che to su to ni su ta te ro de ja le so to long che yo ra lu so trum ne te da la ki bi long che ba na se long che ba na ti tu nyo wa yin no so ni mi ki chi to so no de ya bu do ran lo kong ge chi so so na chwa ran lo ko be chi ya bu su le long che so so na so de wa se ro de ya bu me do sam za mi gi ba me te we su le long che so na so dong ge se ra Keba Mengere Longchesna, so Tanimra. Jinduko. Give you Longchebana, Tidu, Nova Inose, so Tati Ro Reja, Rockesona, Sherry Tobina, social Tevaritona, social Mevaritona Yali, social Coagitona, Meguetona, Camjutona, and it's what to do Yongura traditional Tarim, the Siavuchon Shasa. Dinashita, Tita Roda Rexala Soba Kangan Pacha Jungura. Longevana Tidu, Yonga Yenose, Sudisa Rala Quebesugi, the Rala Quebesugi Sore, Rala Megubesugi Sore, Kawa Mengensugi Sore, Tele Soro Asigora, Sora Deva, Soa Dunge, Soa Tangim Sigdua. Tetarian Jovales, Simi Gene, Simjangida, the Umajua, Padan Dawatava, Gender Kiterua, Umajuara, Madame Avatar Sura, Umajuvales. Simni Gene, Simjan Jigdenda, Nugin Jigden, Shindu Nazon, Dua Malu Lele Keberson, Simban and Lega Yoma Yese. O Simgi, Tambu Samluta, Simni Gene, Simgi, Kivechola Simba, Mikivechola Simba, Ra, O Tende Chebalutene, and you Lunga get Cheba Sambutang and Bagidi Yogoresera. The Lunga Yesum Gilele Tene, and it Tawada Tungenyo. Shit Yogoresera. Simni Gene, Simjan Jigdendas, Simjan Longcha Jigden, Longcha Busura, Simjan Jigden. No Jigden Shindu Nazo, no Jigden Societies Yora. Oh, Simni Gene, Simjan Jigden, no Jigden Shindu Nazo. Gramalu Lele Keber Sonse. Oh, doesn't draw somebody. Lele Tene Keber Sombere, so soke. Yigi Ledas. Lunga Gile, Sangele Tene. Kyawa Sangeda, Lu Sangeda, Longju Sangeda, Nujin Jigden Sangele Soba, Tendil Kiade, Le Sangele Tenity, Jebu Yongo Resivara. Simyin Kine, Simjan Jigden, Nujin Jigden, Shindu Naso Gos, or Jigden Naso Yaga, the Doa Kanga Parmata Yadi, or Tendil Chon Resora. Jigden Naso one day, Gaba Legend, Gaba Pode, Le Resora, Sim Resora. Simyin Kine, Simjan Jigden, Nujin. Simgi lesa, lunga ki lesa roa, lunga yisongi lele ten tukda. Marato tenri yana chungi shiri shiga, tome maribe kunela, niban duchi ki lesa kidwa. Tambu tambu lesa ya de ko nga samsa. Rawa re nga chi samlu tangi yora. Nga samlu tangi zane, nga ye samsa, nga li sakba yade. Ta nga la tewa da tunga zi kogu do, de kogu me do samsa samlu kogu yora. De kogu do, ne simgi samlu tangi doa, ne lesa kidwa. Tome maribe kunela niban duchi ki lesa ase. Ne sumpa namshila deva shana, ne chine kiawa langdwa. Ngade. Simyi kine simjen jiden dan le jin jiden shindu nason go dwa malu lele kebar son simba nane leja yoma yis. Oda tanda tere. Namba sangi bachana jiden go babu shen yoma res. Simjen chitun je leda, nyamdo sa shebe leda. Soso kerge le. Tumu mayimbo sosu lüdang longzhu la soba ti chwede sosu kansa keri sosu tumu mayimbo lel ten chukura. Chi chane nyo jin jik ten ta changme tumu ki longche che tozu tumu e lel ten chukura. Simyi gene simjen jik ten ta nyo jin jik ten shindu na songos. Rwa malu lele kebar son simba nani lege yo mayes. Odi changma lele teni kebar simle teni chunga re esi wara. Sim jik ten ki cheba pa sudo she yora tatanda. Ya, kisone andrido.
So here, then turning to the next section, which is the thought and deeds of those who do not assert a divine creator. So here, just to kind of summarize this a little bit. So here, again, 2,600 years ago, we had the Buddha come into the world, and there are those that are not Buddhists that also assert that there is no divine creator, such as the Jains and so forth. But there are those, it says, question here, although there is no self-existent, permanent divine creator of the world, from the point of view of Buddhists, the things of this world are not self-existent without any causes or conditions. So what are their causes? So there is no sort of way of asserting a self-existent, self-arisen kind of permanent divine creator. And so then the things that exist in the world can also not be self-existent. So what are their causes and conditions? So here, according to Buddhists, it's really everything is dependent upon karma. And so we have the ability, based upon working with our own mind, to improve our way of thinking, to improve the kind of situation that we are in. Again, there have been countless Buddhas that have come in the past, and they began originally just like us as ordinary beings who then, through developing positive qualities like love and compassion and understanding impermanence and selflessness, and then eliminating all of their faults, removing their afflictions, getting rid of those obscurations to omniscience and so forth, they develop the complete knowledge of what is to be adopted and what is to be abandoned. And based upon that are then able to lead and aid other sentient beings. So here, when it comes to the sort of understanding of Buddhists, everything is dependent upon causes and conditions. It's not as though we are always within samsara, but rather that everything is dependent upon karma. And in turn, karma is really talking about our mind. So here, as it says in the answer to this, living beings' consciousnesses create both positive and negative mental karma. Arising from that are the many physical and verbal karmic actions, both virtuous and non-virtuous. From these come the locales, bodies, and so on that are the basis for beings' experiences of happiness and suffering. So here, when it comes to a Buddhist understanding, again, we have the ability, because everything is causally dependent, we can, if we create the proper sorts of causes, we can improve and develop our mind such that we have the potential to become fully enlightened. So when we talk about causes and conditions, the more general kind of term is cause, and conditions act as causes. But when we're talking specifically like a substantial cause, and then those sorts of things that aid that, we use that term cause and then condition. And so it is from our mind. The mind is the main cause that acts to create all of the various kinds of locales, bodies, and so forth that are the basis for beings' experiences of happiness and suffering. So it is the mind then that creates virtue and non-virtue. We have the ability, by working with our mind, to eliminate all of the kind of thoughts of wanting to harm others and develop the sort of wish to benefit others most fully. So it's the mind that really engages. And so when we talk about mind or beings coming from sort of this first mental karma, and then the kind of actions that are driven by that karma. Again, we can talk about sort of the positive intention that is itself a karma, that is intentional karma, of like, say you see somebody who needs help and the thought, oh, I want to help them. That in itself is virtuous, is positive. And then the sort of actions that you take with your speech and your body to actually alleviate that person's suffering, those are the sorts of intended karmas that arise from that particular intention. So when we look at the various places, the kind of environments, the locales in which beings inhabit, and their bodies and all of the various possessions and things that they engage with, this happens through a process of karma. So we engage with the environment. Again, we have our various sense bases, and in dependence upon contacting various objects, forms and sounds and smells and tastes and touch and so forth, we then give rise to various feelings. We feel happiness or we feel suffering. And so it is then in dependence upon that wish to have certain things and wish to avoid other things that we then engage in various actions. We create then karmas. So it is this whole process of having intentions, having thoughts, that the mental karma that creates the variety of the world. So here, quoting from, again, when beings use those bases, when they experience happiness and suffering. So Chandrakirti's Entering the Middle Way states, mind itself creates the great variety of animate and inanimate worlds. Buddha stated that all beings arise from karma. There is no karma without the mind. So it is that kind of all of these beings, these various types of beings come from karma, from the external kind of world, as well as the living beings within it arise due to the force of karma. So it is from having a kind of good or bad intention, again, based upon that sort of fundamental grasping at ignorance. We have that when we look at the 12 links of dependent origination, this kind of ignorance that grasps at an I, and then based upon that sense of I and mine, we engage in various activities, leaving conditioning factors or karmic imprints on that particular consciousness, which in turn ripens into a future life. So when we look at the external world, the sort of great variety of animate and the inanimate world, the various environments, all these arise according to the kind of common shared karma of beings, as well as their own individual karmas. So as Chandrakirti's quote points out, it is the case that mind itself is what acts as the cause for the great variety of these worlds. The Buddha has stated that all of these beings arise from karma, and karma itself doesn't come from anywhere but mind.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So we'll stop there for today, as we're out of time.
Oh yeah.
May the spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it, have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Losong's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Idam Guru Ratna. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Ginla, and
Oh
thank you
yeah.
for
Welcome. Yeah.
your interpretation. And for anyone online, we're going to be making an offering to Genna and Katrina on the Day of Miracles. That's the 7th, that's next Tuesday. So if you'd like to join in that offering, then check out the chat box. There's information there. Thank you. We'll see you next week.
Kunja Jema Jeyongin.
Oh yeah. Welcome. Oh,